Yo, what's going on, my buddies? Totaljophes coming at you with my review for Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness. Okay, so first off, I just have to say, sorry I haven't been around in a little while, guys. I've been getting really stomped at work. I've been having ridiculous hours, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to really make a lot of videos. And even then, that still actually didn't keep me from making them. I actually was making a sort of, post E3 video showcasing my thoughts on everything that happened at E3, but for some reason, and this was like days in the making. It was like 2 or 3 days that I was making this, because I was really planning it out very well. But for some reason, when I was actually like trying to use my video, editor to actually export the video and get it up on YouTube, I don't know, it just glitched out every single time, and I tried for like days afterwards to try to freaking get up there. I must have spent a week on this one video alone, desperately trying to get it up on YouTube, and it wasn't working for some reason. Every time I tried to export it, it didn't come out right. Like, it came out, and then I uploaded it to YouTube, and it wouldn't upload for some reason. Every time. For like a week. So that's most of the reason I've actually been gone for a little while, but all the same, I am back, and hopefully you guys saw the teaser for Hidden Lyrics Season 2. I've got some really good songs I'm going to be going hidden lyricing up for that. But that is not what this video is about. This video is my review for Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness, which, for those of you who don't know how my reviews work yet, I take 3 categories: story, graphics, and gameplay. I give them each a score out of 10, and then add them all together for a final score out of 30 at the very end, for my ultimate review of the game. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so usually I actually start off with story, but because that's my main problem with this game, I'm actually going to keep that for the end, because I don't want to turn you guys off of this game, because it actually is a good game, but I want to start with its strengths. Now, if we're talking about Star Ocean 5's strengths, we're talking about the actual gameplay. We're talking about the combat, the character development. Oh my god, okay. So I'm a veteran Star Ocean player. I haven't actually beaten the first 2 games, but I have beaten the 3rd game, and I have beaten the 4th game. So I have played a lot of Star Ocean, and all the same, this game definitely continues a lot of what Star Ocean has to offer. It has more or less the same combat system, but, kind of builds on it like, most games tend to do. But something that I noticed was actually really cool with this entry was roles. Brief sort of explanation. Roles are sort of like, they're sort of traits you can apply to your character. Like, say, for example, there's a healer role, which you can give to a character to... Honestly, I think that one just increases their MP. But there's roles that you can apply to people to give them more attack, or, defense, or, raise the potency of certain spells, and they get really in-depth. They can even get things like, they'll hang back more, or attack more, or use certain kinds of abilities. I mean, in a way, it's almost like the Gambit system from Final Fantasy XII, because of how much you can customize what they do. It's not as in-depth as that, of course, because, nothing is as in-depth as Final Fantasy XII's Gambit system. At least nothing I've had experience with. But you can also level up roles, which makes them stronger, and also unlocks other roles. Each character can equip 4 roles, and it just provides a lot of customization for how your characters work. And I really love that. It really lets you develop each character how you want them to develop. Now, granted, you can't make your main character, Fidel, into a mage or anything, because, he's a swordfighter. That's what he does. He doesn't really use symbology, or in this game it's called signaturgy, which is mainly just because in this game, the planet that you're playing on calls it signaturgy, whereas, it's still called symbology everywhere else, the usual. But, yeah, so roles is just... It's really amazing to be able to customize your characters and have them fight how you want them to. Like, you can have, for instance, Fidel, you can have him be this absolute ripping and shredding tank, or you can have him be this, like, super defensive wall, or you can have... I mean, you can do any number of things, really. You just can't alter their base combat style. Like I said, you can't make a sword fighter into a mage or anything. Outside of that, the crafting system is back again, of course. They tweak it usually in most games, I've noticed. In this game, it's really just as simple as you have the materials, you go in, you make it. It's pretty simple. You have to talk to Welch a lot, which, yes, Welch is back. Welch is in every Star Ocean, and she's awesome, as usual. But, yeah, you have to go to her to learn how to craft and whatnot. But the crafting, there's a lot of crafting. There's so many recipes for weapons, armors, usable items, throwable items. I mean, shit, there's a lot. I mean, I haven't actually crafted everything you can in the game, but yeah, the crafting system, there's a lot to craft. On top of that, just how to put it, Star Ocean has a really, really fun way of adding a really good action emphasis to, you know, JRPG games. Like, it's not turn-based or anything. Essentially what I'm saying is the combat system in Star Ocean 5 is the freshest and the fastest and the most fluid that Star Ocean has had, at least in my opinion. And I don't know, it was really fun. All of the battles were really fast-paced and action-packed, and there's always a lot of room for strategy, you know, for, do I use a light attack to cancel their strong attack? Do I use a strong attack to break their guard? Do I guard to try to fuck up their light attack? So on and so forth. And then there's counterattacks, and then there's this gauge that you can fill up. And, you know, most Star Ocean games have that, where you can fill up a gauge and it'll give you bonuses in experience, or money made, or SP, which is required to upgrade your abilities and whatnot. But on top of that, it also is something you can expend in order to use, like, really powerful super abilities, which is also really badass, and they have, like, cutscenes for the attacks and everything. So, all in all, the gameplay, the combat, you know, the exploration of the game, you know, there's a lot of really big areas for you to explore, lots of treasure chests, lots of things to unlock. It's all amazing. Absolutely the best that Star Ocean has to offer. So, score for the gameplay, 10 out of 10, hands down. I had so much fun with every last ounce of that. My only complaint, I would say, is that the side quests you get, which is from, like, you know, a job board in town, which, you know, a lot of RPGs have, but, you know, it's pretty much all just kind of fetch quests, you know, go and get this item and bring it back to the board. Go and get this item and bring it back to the board. Go and kill these enemies and get this item and bring it back to the board. Go and kill these enemies and bring back to the board. It's all really repetitive side quests. But, you know, side quests aren't really a necessary thing. That's kind of just a thing that's latched on to the main game anyway, so I'm not going to really rate it down for that, so, yeah. And now, on to the graphics. Like I said, story I have issues with, saving that for last. Now, the graphics. Star Ocean has never been known for realistic graphics. It's usually kept to a more anime style, which is fine. You know, that works for the Star Ocean games. It doesn't need to have, you know, Final Fantasy 15 super realistic graphics. It doesn't need to have that. It works perfectly well with the more anime-style graphics. And actually, I really love that art style that they have for the game. Now, as far as that goes, it is on the PS4, and as you can expect, it's the best-looking Star Ocean game that we've had to date. The Last Hope was really good-looking, but Integrity and Faithlessness kicks it straight in the ass. I will admit one thing, The Last Hope, at least as far as it went for me, had some more interesting scenery. Integrity and Faithlessness, it doesn't have as much really amazing scenery. But the graphics themselves, with everything that they do have, is amazing. The lighting is perfect. I mean, the shadowing is perfect to the point where I found myself going up a cliff while it was, you know, like sundown sort of time. And you know how, you know, when you're walking and there's sun coming on you, you know, you go in a certain direction, your shadow kind of gets bigger and longer, or, you know, it gets shorter, that sort of thing. Yeah, that they actually have that. I don't know, I thought that was just kind of really interesting that they paid that close attention to just, like, the shadow and the lighting and whatnot, so that was really interesting. All of the characters looked amazing, you know, all of the towns, all of the scenery, it all looked perfect. It was very, very beautiful. Like I said, it didn't have as good actual scenery, so, you know, they didn't have the graphics utilized in the best way that they could have, but all the same, it was still a very pretty game. It definitely does look really good, so, what I will say is, you know, there's a few things they could have probably improved on. Like, you know, whereas, yes, they have the anime style, and I love that, you know, they didn't look that much more amazing than The Last Hope. Like I said, it is the best looking Star Ocean game, but not to the extent that I would want it to be on the PS4. But it is still beautiful. So, all in all, score for the graphics, 8 out of 10. The reason being, it is beautiful, it does have the amazing art style, yada yada, but the PS4 is more powerful. They could have put a little more effort into it. It does look good what they have, but, you know, it kind of... I will definitely be talking about this more in the story section, but it kind of feels a little rushed, like they could have put a little bit more effort into the graphics, but they didn't because they really had to get it out there fast or something. So, yeah. Brace yourself for the story part, guys. Now on to my main problem with this game, which is the story. Now, don't get me wrong, the storyline is good, okay? The problem is not that the story itself is bad, it's the pacing of the story, it's the character depth, or lack thereof. Here's what I will say. Star Ocean 5, Integrity and Faithlessness really feels like it was rushed. Like, they did not have a lot of time, and rather than put out a buggy mess and rush it that way, it feels like they more focused on cutting parts out of the story and letting the characters have less screen time to, you know, develop and emotionally grow and things like that. There's just so many points in the story where you can tell it's getting rushed. Like, for instance, Fidel and Miki, two of the characters in that game. It's not really a spoiler to say that Miki has a thing for him. If you played, like, any Star Ocean game ever, the childhood friend to the main character always has a thing for him. So, yeah. Yeah, Miki has a thing for Fidel, right? Which, you know, it's mentioned very briefly in the beginning, okay? Very briefly. And even then, it's with a side thing. You have personal actions, which is sort of... You can talk to your characters and get, like, bonus cutscenes. Think of it kind of like skits from the Tales series. If you've ever played those. But, you know, they're kind of like bonus cutscenes to focus on the characters themselves. And it only happens in that it's actually hinted that she has a thing for him. So without that, or even with that, their relationship, them actually getting together, totally comes out of left field. Like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she's just like, oh, yeah, I love you. And he's like, oh, yeah, I love you too. Yeah, it just comes out of nowhere. There's no emotional connection between the two. Yeah, you can tell that they're friends throughout the whole thing. You can tell that there might be something beneath it, but it's not very obvious. And then out of the blue, they just get together. Just like that. Just like that. And that's so not the only thing in this game that felt rushed. I mean, the entire story felt rushed. Every single time there was a cutscene, it felt like they were really, really trying just to move on. Like, you know, something really big and bad happens, they're like, oh, that's really big and bad. Alright, let's keep going. Okay, something really sad happens. Oh, this is really sad. Alright, let's keep going. It feels so rushed. They don't take a moment at all, like ever, to actually dwell on anything that's going on. There are very few times in the story where they actually dwell and think about what's going on. And as far as dwelling and thinking, the characters, they have, like, no time to do anything besides go along with the story. They don't have any time to interact with each other much. They don't have any time to, you know, emotionally grow as characters. I mean, the same Fidel you get at the beginning of the game is the same damn Fidel at the end. The same Victor you get at the beginning is the same damn Victor at the end. I think the only character in the entire game that has any emotional growth or character development is Relia, and she's only kind of playable. She's in your party for the entire damn game, but you don't use her. You can't equip weapons on her. You can't teach her skills or anything. She's just kind of in battle just for the hell of it. That's another thing that I honestly kind of feel was rushed. Like, maybe she was meant to be more of a character, maybe she was meant to be able to fight, but they had to cut a lot of stuff out from her fighting abilities to make the game go faster. Just like I said, everything in this game felt so rushed. And it's sad. It really saddens me because as a Star Ocean fan, I was really looking forward to it, and the game is good. It has a lot of potential, but the fact that it really seems rushed really squanders that potential. It really messes it up. I really wanted to get attached to these characters because their actual personalities, their actual, like, who they are, it's not boring. They are really good characters, but you get, like, no time to experience their character. Like, for instance, I love Victor. Victor's really badass. He's, you know, he comes off as just the stereotypical knight guy, but he's kind of one of those guys that puts his friends before his duty, and, you know, he has this bit later on where he, you know, protects Relia and has her stay close to him. He's a really cool character. You definitely get the point that he fights more for what he believes in rather than what his country believes in, but you get, like, no time to know him besides just what little bits you get to see. You get to see him in the cutscenes, him go through the story, but you don't get to understand him, like, his emotional, like, his... You don't get to understand what he's thinking, how he's feeling. You don't get to really understand that for, like, anybody. Honestly, like I said, the only people that had any actual growth was, yeah, like I said, just Relia, honestly. I want to say that Fidel and Miki did, and to a certain extent they did, but it really wasn't much. So yeah, honestly, whereas the basics of the storyline were good, they just rushed it so much. So much. In fact, there was even some things that were just left unexplained. Like, there's a part, I won't spoil too much, but where you get to this area that doesn't belong. It doesn't belong even in the futuristicness that is Star Ocean. And it's not any of the, like, ancient ruins or anything that is in the underdeveloped planet that you're on. It's just there. It makes no sense. They sit there and think about it for 2 seconds, and then they move on. It's never even explained. They don't think about it as much as they should be, because if something like that came out of nowhere, I'd be sitting there like, oh my god, what the fuck is this? What does this mean? They don't. They're just like, oh, what is this? Alright, let's go. Like, that's literally it! It's so bad. Like, I just feel if they had more time, they could have made the story as amazing as I feel it could be. And it's really sad, because it is a good game. Like, it has great potential. But they just fuck it up, because it looks like it was just rushed. Like, really, really rushed. So all in all, the story, as good as the basics of the story is, it only gets a 4 out of 10. Because it was just too damn rushed. You just didn't get any time for, like, anything. Okay, so there you have it, guys. Final score, yeah, 22 out of 30. Which isn't bad by any means, but it's not as good as it could be. Star Ocean, if they didn't fuck up the story, could be way up there. Could have 28 or even 30 out of 30, honestly. But because they fucked up the story so much by rushing it, it just... It's sad. It's really sad. And it has a lot of potential that I wish it lived up to. All in all, though, it is still a good game. It just... It's not as good as it can be. All of that potential is wasted. It doesn't have a whole lot of gameplay hours. It's, in my experience, the shortest that a Star Ocean has been. Star Oceans usually are somewhere around 40 hours, as far as I've experienced. This game took me less than 20 to beat, somewhere between 18 and 20. So yeah, it definitely feels rushed. It definitely feels like a lot was taken out of it, but it is still fun. I definitely did still have fun with it. It's not as good as it could be. So, did you guys play a Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness? What did you guys think about the game? Do you agree with my review? Do you totally disagree? Let me know. Leave your comments in the comments section down below. Definitely leave a like on this video and subscribe for future videos, because I'll be uploading multiple every week as usual. So, that'd be about it. So until next time, stay pretty, my buddies.